Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another video answering Patreon questions. Today's topic is a bit of a big one, but before we get into it, I know that you won't all stick this video through to the end. So while I have you here, drop a comment letting me know what August game releases you're looking forward to. My head has been so deep into 90-hour JRPGs lately, I feel like I'm very out of the loop on what's coming out next. So please, by all means, shout it all out below. Secondly, if you want to support this channel and help shape its content going forward, consider supporting me on Patreon for as little as $1 a month, link in the description below. Now, today's question is multi-tiered. Mark asks, how do you feel censorship has affected games coming to the West or being released in a mangled state, as well as how censorship itself appears to have lessened over the last couple years? Mark also asked life vs hometown and your opinion about the state of games we love. Let's answer these ranging from easiest to hardest. First off, life vs hometown. My answer is hometown. If you've been around this channel for very long, you already know this. If you need a deep answer as to why, check out the anime Prison School, or at least search for the video titled Prison School, Are You an Ass Man or a Boobs Man? That should do more than answer the question. Next, my opinion on the state of the games we love. I'm going to assume this is asking about niche games in general, whether they be under the radar JRPGs or more ecchi fueled stuff. And honestly, right now, I think they're the strongest they've been in a very long time, although some of them are going through a bit of a rough patch. When it comes to ecchi stuff, I think the Vita really helped open the market up for this content and made it vastly more popular in the West and as well in Japan. That said, support for the Vita is dropping quickly around the world, and certain series that used to be on Vita like Mary Skelter Nightmares and Galgun have now moved off the platform with their new entries and onto the PS4 and Switch instead. Both games seen a significant drop in first week sales as a result. So where some games are experiencing some growing pains, it's at least comforting to know that they became popular enough to be given the chance to grow, and I'm certain that going forward they will indeed grow more. When it comes to the JRPG, I think it's the most popular it's been since the start of the PS2 generation. Relative sales and Metacritic ratings might not back this up an insane amount, but games that previously would have been seen as not being worth it to localize in the West are finally making it over here. From the excellent backlog of Yakuza games, to the long-awaited Shining Resonance Refrain, to massive endeavors like the Legend of Heroes series, as well as soaring sales for Ys 8 and Persona 5. I feel that after years and years of short cinematic experiences and adventure games, people are looking for something a little more broad in scope. I also feel that the advent of services like Funimation and Crunchyroll are helping the genre and graphic style of many games feel more accessible to up-and-coming gamers. To me, by all accounts, the JRPG seems to be carving a new space for itself in the West, and this pleases me greatly. Now for the big question. How do you feel censorship has affected games coming to the West or being released in a mangled state, as well as how censorship itself appears to have lessened over the last couple of years? This won't have the biggest answer, but it was definitely the one I chewed on the most. Fact of the matter is, my opinion seems to change on this more than I would like. It's definitely a case-by-case scenario, but some cases make me rend my garments and shout to the sky, cursing censorship in any and all forms. Yet I understand fully the necessity of it in some cases. So let's look at some cases. Tales of Berseria. I won't show the clip for spoiler reasons, but at the start there was initially a scene depicting a child being run through with a sword and murdered. In the West, this would have given the game an M rating, and that M rating likely would have hurt sales a great deal. Thing is, I love the Tales series, and I want to see it sell well and improve going forward. I would prefer the original cut of the game, but the recut really didn't rub me the wrong way, so I understand and accept that one. Fire Emblem Fates. Even if the cut content here was to drop it from an M rating to a T, which I don't believe it was, I still can't get behind this one. The sheer volume of data lost between the original cut and the Western cut is astounding and unacceptable to me. And to have the gall to charge the same price in both markets when one market's version of the game is roughly 30% larger? Get bent, Nintendo. This isn't me saying that the game is bad or that it turned out bad because of the censorship. I'm personally not really a Fire Emblem fan, but my fiancé is, and by all accounts she seemed to enjoy the game. It wasn't her favorite by far, but she still found it enjoyable. Xenoblade Chronicles X and Tokyo Mirage Sessions. I'm lumping these two together because what was lost doesn't affect the gameplay, story competency, or character interactions too much, but the sheer pettiness and pointlessness of some of the cuts is frankly shocking to me. In Tokyo Mirage sessions, they erased hip bone definition. I just don't have words for this. Both games I think turned out enjoyable, but it's just stupid, honestly. Criminal Girls. During motivation scenes, a pink mist covers all the action. Some people claim that this actually heightened the allure for them, but personally I don't see it. I can get behind this censor if it was to prevent the game from being an AO rating, but if Criminal Girls 2 is anything to go by, it certainly wasn't going to get an AO rating to begin with. What they should have done with Criminal Girls is the same thing they've done with Criminal Girls 2. Just redraw whatever offending pieces of art were going to get them the AO rating. I do really wish they would stop removing voice clips from these scenes though. So yeah, while censorship and my opinion on it can go either way, I feel it's rare that they affect sales too much if the censors aren't changing the game's rating. Some games, like Fire Emblem Fates, I feel suffered as a result of their censorship, though it's not like that game brought in low sales by any stretch of the imagination. But for as many games as there are that are losing sales in protest to censorship, there are as many games gaining more sales than they really deserve for refusing to censor. Games like Dead or Alive Extreme 3. This countercurrent against censorship, I believe, has done a lot for us in the past couple years. It has shown that despite a loud vocal minority expressing outrage, support for direct ports still runs very, very strong beneath the surface of America. I feel Xenoblade Chronicles 2 is a great example of this. Though much of the dialogue was changed in the process of localization, things that Xenoblade X was heavily criticized for cutting remain fully intact. It may not be exactly where I want localization to be, but it's a damn good start, and I'll be happy to see it continue on this trajectory. Ideally, I would like to see censorship retained for what's only legally required. We have an AO rating, and it would please me to see society embrace and use it. But if AO ratings are unprofitable, I would rather have the censored game that I can understand than have an uncensored game that is unplayable to me. I received a brief inquiry/request from Nameless600 as well, stating, "I loved your History of Tecmo Koei video. Don't know if it did well in terms of views, but I wouldn't mind seeing one on some of the major JRPG companies." So, first off, I'm glad you liked the video. It wouldn't be accurate to say it done well in terms of views, but that's hardly a concern for me. I made that video because I personally love learning about this stuff, and I learned something interesting that I thought other people would like to know about. I do have another video like this planned, but to say that it's a massive undertaking is a massive understatement. Truth be told, I started scripting it in March, and intended it to be a video told in 4 parts. The first 2 parts are scripted, and the remaining 2 I still have a lot of research to do for. Fact of the matter is, I've just been too busy with regular content to revisit it. Though it isn't as soon as I would like, I'm hoping in October I can find the time to come back to it and put it together. It's a video I'm really excited to do, but I can't put the channel on hold for weeks to get it done, so it's going to be a long process. To give you a hint of what it is, here's a small excerpt from the beginning of my script for part 2. Born in 1957, Masafumi Miyamoto was the expected successor to his father's power line construction company called Den Yu Sha. Masafumi studied at Waseda University but never had a firm grasp on what he wanted to do for a living. While he did take work at his father's company, he had a deep interest in the manufacturing of women's clothing. If you're curious of the topic, feel free to look up Masafumi Miyamoto on Google, because that video is going to be quite a deep dive. Now that's it for the questions from Patreon this week, but I'd like to touch base on something from a previous review. In my Shining Resonance Refrain video, I showcased the crazy slowdown I experienced in battle on the base model PS4, and stated that, aside from PC, people's experience with performance has been incredibly inconsistent, with some saying they never experienced any slowdown at all, and some saying that it was frequent and bothersome. In the pinned comment of that video, I left a straw poll to see if I can get a better view of what it's been like for others, and of course, it was a near 50-50 split on all platforms besides PC. But a theory of mine has been more or less confirmed by some of the comments, and this explains the split in response. So thank you everybody for taking part in the survey and leaving your comments. This information is definitely valued. As I suspected, the slowdown is strongly related to your party build and the moves you have enabled for them. People who experience lots of slowdown like myself likely have 2 or more magic users on their team. When more than one area of effect spell is cast between you and the enemies, the frame rate will absolutely tank. While there's no way to fully avoid slowdown, you can lessen the likeliness of it by building your team so that they have less magic capabilities. It is a shitty compromise though, being unable to build your party the way you want and have a smooth experience. But it's a compromise nonetheless and brings clarity to a previously unclear situation. And one last thing before I close the video, here's a lesson from life in Tark's basement. The past 2 weeks here, we've been going through some insane heat waves. And if you're like me and have your gaming set up in the basement, invest in getting a dehumidifier before you know you need one. I'm throwing this here at the end because it's valuable advice I wish I had before. Hot air on cool basement floors and walls creates condensation. As expected. For me, that condensation started becoming puddles. Left untreated, that could become mold. I had to go out and make an emergency dehumidifier purchase, and it seemed I wasn't the only one, as they were sold out nearly everywhere around me. Get a dehumidifier early if you can, so you don't have to wait a week for stores to restock or for Amazon to ship your package. That humidity buildup can also occur inside your game cases and consoles, and then it gets really ugly. Good dehumidifiers aren't cheap, but it's certainly cheaper than losing everything in your basement and your collection, so keep your stuff protected, folks. And until next time, thanks for watching, and thanks for all of your support.